It is actually quite useful to have a database containing all of the code that you have written in any of your 4D databases, all collected into one location. I will demonstrate some of the functions of the ArchiveMethod database using a database which contains all the code from about 1 year's worth of work. The first task is simply to look at that code. This is a listing of all the methods that have been written in this database. You can see here that the total number of code versions is about 13,000. Here in the upper bar is a region which acts as a filter on the list of methods. We'll go through some of this. The most common situation is to check most recent version, and that will reduce the number of methods by showing only the most recent version of every method. You can see that now we are displaying only a little over 2,000 methods. You can specify only a single database, so we could go down here and look at this particular database. Now we're down to only 280 versions. You'll notice that if we have a single database selected here and we have most recent version selected, a second small checkbox comes up to specify most recent in this particular database. The reason for that is a little bit subtle. The most recent version insists that every method here be the most recent version throughout the entire database. It's common to share code in different databases, and under that circumstance it would be possible for a method to have a more recent version in some other database, and under that situation it would not show up in this particular listing. If you in fact want to see the most recent version of every method specifically within the Fox Island Cemetery database, you can click on here. If you wait a bit, you'll see that the number of methods actually increases, because methods like alert pause might have a more recent version in some other database, but this is the most recent version within this database. So let's go ahead and look at a specific method. I'll just arbitrarily choose this one, double click on that entry. You'll come up with a window that shows the code in two separate locations. On the right, you see the code with all of the comments included, and on the left side, where it says just code, you're seeing only the actual code with all the comments stripped out. Continuing on here, we will look for a specific method by the title of the method. If I type in here Rx, then only methods that start with Rx will be shown in this listing. In this case, there are 49 of them. You'll notice when entering text in these text boxes, which are acting like filters, there is a slight delay before there is a response in the listing. When using this filter bar here, one has to be a little bit patient after typing to see the changes actually appear. I'm going to go ahead and type the letter C now and do nothing for a couple of seconds until the list is updated. These are less specific filters here. This probably won't change anything if there's no place where Rx actually occurs in the body of the name of the method. But we could, for example, put address here and come up with the methods that contain the word address anywhere within the name of the method. Clear that, wait a few seconds, and we're back to the most recent version in this particular database. Method text contains is a search field which allows you to actually search for any string within the text of the code itself. So for an example, let's say we're interested in all of our code which contains the 4D command position. If we click in here and type position, wait a little bit, and we come up with 280 methods that contain the word position. We can make this a little more specific by excluding the comments. It's possible that we have the word position in a few comments, and indeed the number is reduced a little bit to 244. You might be a little bit more specific if you were truly looking for the 4D command position if you include a open parentheses here, which all the valid uses of the command position will have, and again the number falls slightly. But let's say you're interested in a subset of your use of the position command. There is a form of the position command which, as the last parameter, includes an asterisk, which forces the position command to use the character code in the actual search. This, for example, will distinguish between upper and lower case. It's probably used less frequently. And in this situation, suppose that I'm interested in finding all of the use of position with that the optional asterisk parameter. You can specify two separate bits of text here. So to refer to the trailing asterisk, I could put the search here and include the necessity of having position with the open parentheses, and then somewhere else in the code having a closing parentheses preceded by an asterisk. If I do that, we can look at some of these examples here, and I'll go ahead and look for position. I can see here that 4 lines of code here include that word position. That's not one that I'm interested in. Here's position being used as a command, but there is no trailing asterisk as the last parameter. So in fact, while this piece of code does contain the word position, it does not contain position used with a trailing asterisk. If I change this to look specifically for a trailing asterisk, I can see that there are 3 instances of it, but when I search for them, I find them here, and none of these are actually related to the position command. To deal with this situation, you want to click on one line here, and that will mean that you will find position, open parentheses, and asterisk, close parentheses, all on the same line. This is a fairly specific requirement and results in a very small number of methods. And if we look for those and search for it's likely that the find will include what we were actually looking for, which is the use of the position command with a trailing asterisk. The point of all this is that it is frequently useful to review your own use of some obscure piece of 4D code. You might remember a year later that somewhere in one of your databases you've tangled with this particular command before, but at this point you can't remember where. By using this search method here, one can actually find that command used wherever it was used in your code and review that old code to refresh your memory of exactly how that 4D command is used. This next area here of a date range is fairly straightforward. If you know, for example, that the code you're interested in was written in the last week or so, you can click on this button and the filter will reduce the method listing to these 2 particular methods that were written in the last week. So let's go back to the next page where we've briefly been before, but look at a method which has multiple versions. To simplify this, I'm going to check off project methods only. You can see here there's a method type, and project methods are only one type of method. If I unclick this, you'll now see that there are other types of methods such as project form object methods and table form object methods. If you click on a heading in this listing, you'll see these things grouped, and here are all the project form object methods, and here are the table form object methods, etc. But for this, I'm going to check off project methods only and look at some methods that I use across multiple databases. And this is the example I'm going to select here. Now here we can see that there are in fact 24 versions of this particular method. We have some statistics about the code. There are over 3,000 characters of the code. There are almost 3,000 comment characters, so there's about 50% code and 50% comment in the text. We're going to take a break at this point, and we'll continue on with this discussion in part 2.